.4 Magnum felt heavier than it should have in my hands. 32 years of pure bullshit had led me to this moment, sitting in my car outside the quick stop on Highway 19, watching some kid pump gas into his mom's minivan. Normal Tuesday night. Normal people doing normal things. I wasn't normal anymore. Hadn't been for months. The foreclosure notice was still crumpled in my jacket pocket, next to the divorce papers Linda had served me last week. Irreconcilable differences, the document said. That's lawyer speak for, you're a drunk who can't hold a job and I'm tired of pretending you'll get better. She wasn't off base. I pressed the barrel against my temple. The metal was cold, which seemed fitting. Everything felt cold these days. Sorry, Mom, I whispered to nobody. She'd been dead 3 years, but I figured she might be listening. This isn't your fault. The trigger clicked. I woke up screaming. That should have been my first clue that something had gone sideways. Last I checked, dead people don't wake up from anything. The air tasted like sulfur and burnt copper. I was lying on rough stone that felt like it had been heated in an oven. Everything was the color of dried blood and shadow. The sky looked like the inside of a bruise. Well, shit, I said, which pretty much summed up my feelings about the situation. A voice behind me laughed. It sounded like grinding metal. Eloquent. I can see why the boss wants to meet you. I turned around and immediately wished I hadn't. The things standing there might have been human once, but evolution had taken a hard left turn somewhere along the way. Its skin was charcoal black and looked like it had been pressed in a waffle iron. Red eyes, no nose worth mentioning, and teeth that belonged in a shark's mouth. Name's Bale, it said, extending a clawed hand like we were meeting at a coffee shop. I'm your orientation counselor. Orientation for what? Hell, obviously. Try to keep up, Scott. I stood up, which took more effort than it should have. My legs felt like they were made of lead. There's been some kind of mistake. I'm not supposed to be here. Bale laughed again. That sound was going to haunt me. Nobody thinks they belong here. That's what makes it hell. He started walking. Come on, tour starts now. I followed him across a landscape that looked like someone had taken a normal city and put it through a blender. Buildings twisted at impossible angles. Streets ran upward and sideways. In the distance, I could see people going about their business, like this was all perfectly normal. You killed yourself, Bale said without looking back. That's a one-way ticket to the basement, no matter what the circumstances. Suicide is the ultimate rejection of divine gift. Big guy upstairs takes it personally. The big guy upstairs can kiss my ass. Bale stopped walking and turned around. His expression was somewhere between amused and impressed. You know what? I like you, Scott. Most fresh meat spends the first week crying and begging. You've got balls. Where I come from, we call it stupidity. Down here, we call it potential. Time works in funny ways in hell. I learned that in my first week, when what felt like 3 days turned out to be 3 months. I also learned that pain has flavors. Burning tastes entirely different than tearing. Crushing has its own particular notes. My education took place in something Bale called the crucible. Imagine a medieval torture chamber designed by someone with a PhD in human anatomy and a serious creativity problem. Every day, they found new ways to take me apart. Every night, they put me back together so we could do it all over again. The demons running the show were artists in their own twisted way. There was Voss, who specialized in psychological torment. She could show you visions of everyone you'd ever loved, suffering because of choices you'd made. Caney preferred the classics, fire, blades, and creative applications of gravity. And then there was Thorn, who didn't say much, but had a gift for finding nerve clusters you didn't know existed. Why? I asked Baal one day, after Thorn had spent 6 hours seeing how many bones he could break without killing me. What's the point of all this? 2 reasons, Baal said, helping himself to what passed for a cigarette down here. It smelled like burning hair. First, you're being punished. You took your own life, so we're going to make you appreciate it by taking it away from you every day. And second, we're testing you. For what? He smiled, and I saw more teeth than should fit in one mouth. You'll find out if you survive. 4 years. That's how long I spent in the Crucible. 4 years of being pulled apart and put back together like some kind of supernatural jigsaw puzzle. 4 years of learning exactly how much pain a human soul can endure before it breaks completely. I never broke. On day 1461, yes, I was counting, Baal came to see me in my cell. He looked more polished somehow, like he was trying to make a good impression. "Congratulations, Scott," he said. "You graduated." I was hanging from chains attached to my wrists. My feet were about 6 inches off the ground, and everything below my waist was on fire. Just another Tuesday in paradise. Graduated to what? A job offer. He snapped his fingers and the chains disappeared. I hit the ground hard, but at least the fire went out. My body healed instantly, one of the few perks of being dead. "There's a position available in our collections department," Baal continued. "We think you'd be perfect for it." Collections? Think of it as customer service. Some folks topside make deals with us. When their payment comes due, we send someone to collect. That's where you come in. I sat up, rubbing my wrists where the chains had been. "And if I say no?" "Then you go back to the Crucible. Forever. But I don't think you'll say no." "Why not?" "Because the alternative is going back to Earth. You'd be our representative there. Free to walk around, breathe actual air, maybe grab a burger that doesn't taste like ashes." He paused. "There are rules, of course, and responsibilities, but it beats hanging from hooks for eternity." I thought about it for maybe 3 seconds. "Where do I sign?" "No signature required. Just say yes, and we'll get you fitted for your new identity." "New identity?" "You can't be Scott Evans anymore. He's dead, remember? You'll need a name that commands respect. Something that strikes fear into the hearts of those who hear it." Baal grinned. "How does Ravencroft sound?" I had to admit, it had a nice ring to it. "What exactly would I be collecting?" "Souls. The currency of the afterlife. People make deals. Fame, fortune, power, love, and when their time is up, you bring them home. And if they don't want to come, that's not really their choice to make." My orientation for the collections department took place in an office that looked disturbingly normal. Gray carpet, fluorescent lights, motivational posters on the walls. The only giveaway was that all the posters showed people being tortured in creative ways, with captions like teamwork and excellence. The demon in charge was named Malphas, and he looked like a middle manager who'd been dipped in acid. His skin was pitted and scarred, and his eyes were the color of fresh blood. He spoke with a slight lisp, which somehow made him more terrifying. "Welcome to Collections, Ravencroft," he said, gesturing for me to sit in a chair that was definitely not designed for human comfort. "Before we begin, you need to understand the rules. These aren't suggestions, they're laws. Break them, and you'll wish you were back in the Crucible." He handed me a leather-bound book that felt warm to the touch. The cover was made from something that definitely wasn't cowhide. "Rule 1, Malphas said. No innocent blood. You can only touch those who made a deal. Kill anyone else, even by accident, and you'll be stripped down to your component atoms and locked in the furnace for eternity." I opened the book. The pages were blank except for the first one, which had a single name written in what looked like blood: Jennifer Walsh. "Rule 2, no mercy, No bargains. When their time is up, their soul belongs to us. You don't negotiate, you don't give extensions, you collect, period. What if they've got kids or... Not your problem. Next rule. The kill must be poetic. Each execution needs to reflect the deal they made. A singer who sold their soul for fame might choke on broken microphones. A businessman who wanted power might be crushed under his own greed. Get creative. I flipped through more pages. They were all blank, waiting for names. Rule 4, Hell Sees All. We'll be watching you constantly. Demonic eyes are everywhere. Flies on walls, crows on power lines, shadows in doorways. Even when you sleep, you're being observed. Privacy is a privilege you no longer have. And the 5th rule? Malphus smiled, showing teeth that looked like they'd been filed to points. Never refuse a name. When a new target appears in your book, you accept the job. To refuse is to show fear, and fear is weakness. Weakness gets you replaced. He reached into his desk and pulled out a gun. My gun. The same .44 Magnum I'd used to blow my brains out 4 years ago. Your tools, he said, setting it on the desk. The weapon that brought you to us, now cursed to serve our purposes. Its bullets don't destroy flesh. They explode souls. Next came a chain and hook made from black metal that seemed to absorb light. Soul hook. Forged from the spine of the first sinner. It can pierce both body and spirit. Finally, he produced a set of knives that looked like they'd been carved from shadow. Hellsteel blades. Each cut burns like molten metal. They're particularly effective for artistic work. When do I start? Now. He pointed at the book. Jennifer Walsh, pop singer. Made her deal 3 years ago for a #1 hit. Payments due tonight. Finding Jennifer Walsh wasn't hard. She was performing at the Majestic Theater downtown, and her picture was on every bus stop and billboard in the city. The hard part was getting used to being alive again. I'd forgotten how good food could taste. I stopped at a diner on the way into town and ordered everything on the menu just to remember what real flavors were like. The waitress looked at me funny when I started crying over a chocolate milkshake, but I didn't care. After 4 years of ashes and sulfur, vanilla was a religious experience. The city felt strange too. People walked around with their faces buried in little screens, completely oblivious to the world around them. Cars were quieter and more efficient than I remembered. Technology had jumped forward while I was getting my soul rearranged in the basement. But the strangest part was how normal everything felt. I'd been expecting the world to look different somehow, tainted by my knowledge of what lay beneath. Instead, it just looked like Tuesday night in downtown, wherever this was. People laughed and talked and went about their lives, completely unaware that hell was real and walking among them. The Majestic was an old theater that had been renovated sometime in the last decade. The marquee read, "Jennifer Walsh, sold out," in bright red letters. I bought a ticket from a scalper for $300 and made my way inside. The place was packed with teenagers and 20-somethings, all screaming and waving their phones in the air. Jennifer took the stage at 9 o'clock sharp, and I had to admit, she had talent. Her voice was pure and powerful, the kind that could make you believe in better things. Too bad she'd sold it to the devil. I watched from the balcony, studying her movements, getting a feel for her routine. During the third song, I noticed something interesting. Every time she hit a high note, the sound system distorted slightly. Just a tiny flaw, barely noticeable unless you were listening for it. That's when I knew how she was going to die. The backstage area was easier to access than I'd expected. A little demonic influence goes a long way. Security guards suddenly became very interested in checking the exits, and locked doors forgot how to stay locked. Jennifer's dressing room was at the end of a long hallway lined with mirrors. I waited in the shadows, listening to the muffled sound of applause from the theater. The show was ending, which meant she'd be coming back soon. I'd spent the last 2 hours preparing. The room now contained 13 microphones, all connected to amplifiers I'd modified. The glass had been replaced with something sharper. The wiring had been adjusted to ensure maximum feedback. When Jennifer tried to sing, the sound would be beautiful for exactly 3 seconds. After that, things would get messy. She walked in at 11:47, still glowing with post-performance adrenaline. She was smaller than she'd looked on stage, maybe 5'3", with platinum blonde hair and green eyes that sparkled with intelligence. "Hello, Jennifer," I said, stepping out of the shadows. She spun around, her hand reaching for what was probably pepper spray. "Who the hell are you? How did you get in here?" "Name's Ravencroft, and as for how I got in," I shrugged. "I have my ways." "Security!" she screamed. "They can't hear you." "We're in what you might call a pocket dimension. Just you, me, and the consequences of your choices." Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out the book and opened it to her page. Her name was written in flowing script, along with the details of her contract. 3 years ago, you were nobody, playing coffee shops and subway stations, barely making rent. Then you met a man in a very expensive suit who offered you everything you'd ever wanted. "I don't know what your..." "One-hit song," he said. #1 on the charts. All you had to do was sign your name to a piece of paper." I looked up from the book. The ink was red, wasn't it? And warm? She was shaking now. That wasn't real.
What the fuck is this thing? It's huge. क्या है यार? Oh yeah, I'm gonna bye. Good night.